Welcome back to another instalment of New Zealand's Bird of the Week, where in this video I will be talking about the Whiteheads, gregarious songbirds that live in noisy groups in the North Island, being the counterpart to the related Yellowheads in the South Island. I hope you enjoy. Small birds with off-white heads and pale brown bodies, they are quite compact, being around 15 cm in length and weighing about 15 through 18 grams, being a fair bit smaller than the related Yellowheads. A member of the Whitehead family, alongside both the previously mentioned Yellowheads and the brown creepers, they are only found in New Zealand and more specifically up in the North Island exclusively, being most common in tall native forests and dense shrublands. Birds are primarily insectivorous, mainly eating spiders, moths and caterpillars, sometimes hanging upside down to glean them off of trunks, leaves and branches, with them also being known to display flocking behaviour in summer, mainly consisting of small family groups of up to 8 members. These little groups are highly social and consistently chatting amongst either family members or friends, also sometimes forming mixed flocks with other birds to catch insects disturbed by them. They build their nests either in forest canopies or in low shrubs, doing so from October to January, constructing their nests in tree forks with tightly woven neat cups, which are then lined with fine materials such as mosses and grass. This is quite unlike their relatives, the Yellowheads, which do so instead inside of tree holes, which makes these birds quite a bit more vulnerable to predation than Whiteheads, since they on the other hand can fly off their nests when danger approaches. Birds will lay clutches of about 3 eggs, which are laid on consecutive days, with female birds being the sole incubator, though the males may help to feed them as well as their young when they are both on and off the nest. Their incubation takes about 18 days, and the chicks will then leave the nest after about 17 days, with young birds from earlier clutches often helping to raise the next generation of chicks once they've fledged themselves. Whiteheads feature prominently in Maori folklore and legends, and also in a number of rituals for which live individuals were captured. In a Ngāti Mahuta story, the cultural hero by the name of Rasa went into a forest to cut down a tree to make a canoe, but failed however to perform placatory rites to Tane, the god of the forest in Maori mythology. Whiteheads then proceeded to whistle shrilly at him in admonishment and gathered together the pieces of the tree until it stood whole again. This happened several times until Rasa showed remorse, and the birds both felled the tree and made the canoe for him. In other stories, Whiteheads were among several small birds chosen by Maui to accompany him in his ultimately unsuccessful and fatal attempt to abolish the concept of death by killing Hine Nui Tipu, the god of night and death, with their mobbing behaviour also being reflected in one legend, where swarms of them scratched out the eyes of Whaitiri, the goddess of thunder, as they passed by her house, which then caused her to go blind. European settlers, once they arrived, regarded them as a useful forecaster for the weather, as they were noted to keep up a lively chirping sound consistently some hours before an approaching storm, a warning that many bushmen never allowed to pass unnoticed. They also called them Joey Whiteheads, a rather humorous nickname for the distinctive head coloration, which is also the origin of their English name. They were still very widespread at this point, although they soon began to swiftly decline as widespread clearance of lowland forest occurred, as well as the introduction of several new mammalian predators, like several new species of rats and mustelids. They are also reluctant flyers in open areas, and so are incredibly vulnerable to habitat fragmentation, and populations that die out in many isolated pockets can't be replaced easily. As well as rats and mustelids, they are also targeted as brood parasites in summer by long-tailed cuckoos, which will remove their eggs in place of their own, taking advantage of Whiteheads being the diligent parents that they are. Birds have since disappeared from much of their range, or they have since made a comeback in areas like Auckland and Wellington, where they've been reintroduced to reserves, and consistent conservation efforts have meant that their numbers have improved well. And with that, I thank you for watching this instalment of New Zealand's Bird of the Week. For next time, you're now able to vote for the saddleback, vocal birds that, while being once very common, declined to near extinction before being saved by intrepid conservationists, and are now slowly but surely making a recovery in protected areas. With that, I'll see you next time, whenever that may be.